It was a follow-up to a story that turned into much more, and it happened in southeast Portland.
And we were checking back in a neighborhood that had complained about homeless RVs lining their street. Only this time we discovered something that changed everything. Here's tonight's City and Crisis Finding Solutions report. Several neighbors told us about him, but we wondered how much was true. When we visited Southeast Clinton Street a few weeks ago, we encountered homeless RVs and other vehicles lining the streets. Neighbors questioned whether the city was doing enough to find them another place to park. They told us about a neighbor who they felt had made things too comfortable for the homeless by encouraging them to stay, and had taken matters into his own hands, deciding which homeless vehicles can park along Clinton and which ones can't. Even this man who lives in an RV on the street is aware of him.
The owner of this house, he makes sure that this block is clean. He don't allow trash on the yards.
Was there really a neighborhood sheriff, a ruling presence? Obviously, people have had concerns about all the homeless up and down the street.
Because they don't know.
Meet Kenny Housman.
Yeah, when you pull up with a piece of junk, I don't want you here. If you pull up with a decent trailer that you obviously own, maybe even have put plates on it, I want you here.
Housman tells me he's owned the entire block of property that stretches the length of Clinton Street since 2019. It's the street where the homeless campers park their RVs and other vehicles. He decides who stays and who goes. He doesn't allow late-night parties and no loud generators.
If they're those kind of people, then you have to take steps to get them out.
And despite neighborhood complaints, he attributes his screening process to keeping the neighbors safer.
Thanks to my efforts, their catalytic converters, a few of them are stolen, gas, a few of it's stolen, because you don't want those kind of people that steal catalytic converters and gas. You don't want them on your street. You don't want them in your neighborhood. So you have to know who's on your street.
So you maintain who's on the street and who's not. I mean, this is
semi-illegally and semi-legally. It's kind of right in the middle there saying.
Housman, a Vietnam vet, wouldn't tell me what steps he takes to remove campers he doesn't want. He says he also convinced some gang members with guns to leave.
I managed to get rid of them without any violence.
How'd you do that?
Cost me a couple $100, but they're gone.
Did you just pay him to leave?
No, but they're gone.
So what's his motivation for keeping the streets lined with campers? He says these days someone is going to park there, and the more you know about them, the better. He says the complaining neighbors have it all wrong.
They just see a motorhome. They think, oh no, homeless, crime, drugs, etc. They don't see Tim, who I think works, I'm not sure, but he won't steal from them or anything else. They don't see, I don't know Jim very well, the old man Steve living on Social Security. Needs a place to stay.
So you've screened all these people on this street?
I have to. Yeah, you have to know who's here.
Some neighbors have described criminal activity that they blame on their neighbors living on the streets. When we checked police records for the neighborhood in the past year, here's what we found. Above average number of assaults, stolen cars, and weapons violations, although none of that can be attributed directly to the homeless campers. Still, much of the neighborhood ire is directed at Housman himself. Watch what happens during our interview when another neighbor pulls up claiming that Housman provides electricity to the homeless campers.
The gym across the street.
Give them electric and all that power cord.
You're full of Hey, get the hell out of here. Go screw yourself. Go screw yourself. Sit on it. Spin. Have a good time. And that's what you do.
So that's obviously one of the neighbors who says that you're allowing these people to be here, so he's upset about that.
Yeah, see, he doesn't know anything. You don't see any power cords going out there. None.
The City of Portland Street Services Coordination Center sent me this statement regarding Housman and his neighborhood rule. It reads in part, Mr. Housman has been known to contact city workers and attempt to enable people to stay on the block, though he does not have the authority to monitor the public street bordering his property. The city plans to make sure this area is slated for more regular check-ins, in addition to the normal reporting process. But don't expect Housman to stop managing the street, choosing his neighbors. After all, he insists it's the only way it will work.
All of this, you don't find any car thieves here. You don't find people laying around doing drugs, etc. You shouldn't find any needles. All the trash is in one spot for CCC to pick up. They gotta live someplace, but the good ones have to live someplace. The others, they can't live here.
One other note we wanted to tell you, the city of Portland tells me that on Tuesday of this week, they tagged the vehicles on Clinton Street for removal. That means they have 10 days to move or they will be towed. They say this has been in the works for a while. We'll keep you posted on what happens next.
Well, they're back. We're talking about homeless RVs along a stretch of Southeast Portland Road that we've reported on before.
In tonight's City in Crisis Finding Solutions report, neighbors are frustrated, but one of the people you may recognize from a previous story has a brand new solution. If you live anywhere near Southeast 136th and Clinton Street, it really is like Groundhog Day. The streets are cleared of homeless RVs and tents, and within weeks, they're back again, frustrating the neighbors.
I mean, it was cool to have a completely empty street, but then I had to worry, like, who's going to move in?
Kenny Housman has watched it all unfold from his home on the corner. But if you remember Housman from our past stories, you won't be shocked that he said this.
I'm surprised that they complained because it doesn't get any better than this.
Many who live around here call Housman the neighborhood sheriff, deciding which homeless people can live on the street and which ones can't.
He's just parking that there. Really nice guy, came up from Texas. This guy has one leg and his wife's trying to go to school. I don't know much about this guy except that he says he thought he had it sold, so he moved over here, and then it's just here. You see what I deal with, the tent. I don't want them here. I mean, she's a nice lady, but they don't keep it clean.
Housman says his street has never been safer.
But you've got no drugs, no drugs at all on this street. No drugs, no heavy drinking, no nothing, no gangs.
Housman believes the homeless vehicles will always come back and that he keeps it from becoming much worse here.
They move for a week and then they come back.
Anthony Condos has a different take. He owns an insurance company around the corner and feels the constant camp clearing and returning isn't good for anybody.
They're going to move from here and they might go somewhere else, and they're going to be someone else's problem, and they're going to have to deal with the same thing, the crime, the graffiti, all the stuff, the drug use. You know, it's unfortunate, and I don't know what the answer is, but this definitely isn't working.
So you think these folks should be allowed to stay here on the street?
With a condition that they keep their area clean.
Michael Zamora agrees it's not working, but he sees both sides. He tells us he's just here trying to sell his trailer and that he used to live nearby.
If they don't have nowhere for them to go, and it's a public street, as long as they're not making a complete mess and you know, interfering with other people's just eyesight. I mean, it's not fair. It's not fair that people are homeless, and it's not fair that the homeless people, some, don't want to take care of their surroundings.
And it's not the only concern the neighbors have. Some tell us the homeless vehicles have become a sprawling mess, providing a dangerous thoroughfare for kids walking to their bus stop.
Hi, how are you? Oh, yeah. Hi, Bob.
Bob, hi, nice to meet you.
Neighbor Bob Callthaler hadn't met Housman until today. And despite their differences, both men agree that cement barriers, like the ones used a few blocks away, would be just what the neighborhood needs.
We need the barrier, and sadly, these guys have to go somewhere else because we need the barriers. This is more important than somebody needing. They can find a place to live somewhere. These kids cannot keep walking on the street. We need that. We need that sidewalk.
You guys are in agreement on that.
Yeah.
I reached out to the city of Portland to ask about homeless RVs that come and go, and would cement barriers work here? A spokesman for Mayor Wheeler's office reiterated the efforts to get people into shelter and said installing concrete barriers once the site is cleared may be an option. However, the process to do this can be complicated and requires a lot of input. For safety purposes, road access has to be wide enough for safe travel, and barriers in the road generally need to be movable. Exploring ways to harden and secure the area are under discussion. And there was something else Bob was concerned about. Someone had stolen his propane tank from his nearby apartment. Kenny told him he knew exactly where to look.
Hey guys. Hey there. This gentleman needs a propane tank. I figured you guys have plenty. You could spare one.
Well?
Yeah, you got like 20 or 30 of them? There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, you can thank her. She's the one that gave. You can thank her. She gave it to you.
The woman inside said she didn't have that many, but could spare one. Still, many neighbors are left wondering when the city will come by again and clear out the homeless vehicles, only to start the countdown for their return. One thing's for sure, Kenny Housman will be watching.
You only have so many parking spots on the street. The ideal would be that whoever's going to park there is somebody who's not going to steal from you, steal your gas, do drugs, get in domestic disputes, fights, drive-bys, all of that. We don't want any of that.
Now, the mayor's office wanted to point out that the city of Portland has an RV shelter site, and they're developing a second temporary shelter site that will have space for RVs set to open in the spring. Do you have a story to tell us about our city in crisis? Send me an email at cityincrisis@katu.com or leave me a voicemail at this phone number, 503-231-4206.
New tonight, Portland police identifying the man stabbed to death in southeast Portland as someone Katu has interviewed before. Kenny Housman lived in the Clinton neighborhood near a street lined with houseless people in RVs, and he told us he tried to maintain order. Katu's Emily Gersh is live in the neighborhood now. Emily, you spoke with witnesses. What did they have to say?
Yeah, Deb, well, neighbors say they woke up to a man yelling in the street who Housman went to go talk to. The exchange ended in his death. People in the neighborhood called him the neighborhood sheriff. You think Kenny helped maintain a lot of order in this neighborhood?
Yeah, I think on this, as much as he can on a city street.
Are you worried about this neighborhood becoming worse without him? Yeah.
Thanks to my efforts, their catalytic converters, a few of them are stolen.
We first introduced you to Kenny Housman in September.
You have to know who's on your street.
Housman lives in a house at the corner of Southeast 136th and Clinton. He told us he owns the block where RVs and other homeless vehicles are parked, and he decides who gets to live there and who doesn't.
When you pull up with a piece of junk, I don't want you here. If you pull up with a decent trailer that you obviously own, maybe even have put plates on it, I want you here.
But at 12:30 Monday morning, police say Housman was fatally stabbed. Neighbors say it happened after he responded to a man yelling in the street.
They yell, "Mike, come out here, this guy's beating up Kenny." In the street. I go, what? And I put on my shoe and sock. By the time I got there, Kenny was stabbed, bleeding profusely.
Police haven't released details on what led to the stabbing, but they tell us they detained the suspect at the scene, and he's been released and not charged with a crime. Zamora says he's still processing the tragedy.
He would still let people do things and to try to help him out, and he just didn't have to die, you know?
Housman was 73. We spoke with some of his family members today, but they declined to speak with us on camera. Live in Southeast Portland, Emily Gersh, K2 News.
A Southeast Portland neighborhood is in transition following the killing of a neighborhood leader. K2 has done a number of stories on Kenny Housman, often called the mayor of Clinton Street. Some of the neighbors were critical of the way Housman controlled the neighborhood. He was stabbed to death in the street recently. As K2's Steve Dunn reports, in this city in crisis story, some of the nearby homeless population is wondering where they go from here.
Somebody get a free RV here. Come on, guys. It's trashed.
If you followed our city in crisis stories, you've seen him.
It's clean outside because we cleaned it. You only have so many parking spots on the street. The ideal would be that whoever's going to park there is somebody who's not going to steal from you, steal your gas, do drugs, get in domestic disputes, fights, drive-bys, all of that. We don't want any of that.
That's Kenny Housman, often called the mayor or sheriff of Clinton Street in southeast Portland.
He's just parking that there. Really nice guy, came up from Texas. This guy has one leg and his wife's trying to go to school. I don't know much about this guy.
Deciding which homeless people can live on the street and which ones can't. He told us many times that he was making the neighborhood safer.
But you've got no drugs, no drugs at all on this street. No drugs, no heavy drinking, no nothing, no gangs.
But it all ended with tragedy on July 15th at 12:30 in the morning when Housman was stabbed to death in the street. A suspect, one of his housed neighbors, was detained but then released. Many of the homeless people who line Clinton Street say they're in mourning over Housman's death, that he was the one who kept order.
I mean, it's probably going to go downhill. It'll probably get way more messy if other people move in, and because he was the one who kind of regulated everybody picking up their trash and keeping it clean for the most part, and you know, it kept the drug users and dealers, well, mainly the dealers, out of here.
You know how the people who live here feel, right?
One of the nearby condominium neighbors expressed the same concerns.
So, unfortunately, I only see it getting worse, and you know, maybe more violence occurring. I don't know. I'm not a prophet, but I just don't feel good at all about it.
But not everybody was thrilled with Housman's presence in the neighborhood and blamed him for allowing homeless vehicles to stay. You may remember this exchange with a neighbor during one of our interviews.
The gym across the
Get them electric and all that power cord.
You're full of Hey, get the hell out of here. Go screw yourself. Go screw yourself. Sit on it. Spin. Have a good time. And that's what you do.
So that's obviously one of the neighbors who says that you're allowing these people to be here, so he's upset about that.
Yeah, see, he doesn't know anything.
It's a mess out here.
And one neighbor who wouldn't go on camera, fearing retribution, would only talk to me through a Ring camera, saying the homeless vehicles need to go.
All the neighbors around here have reported so many times there is drug activity going on out here. They trespass on our property. They steal from us. They dump garbage. Our children have to walk down the middle of the street. Through this, we have seniors with walkers who have to try to maneuver the middle of the street.
It was not self-defense. They got it way wrong.
The homeless people we spoke to believe the person who stabbed Housman should be in jail, claiming they were witnesses to the confrontation. I reached out to the Portland Police Bureau, who told me that the information and evidence gathered does not support a criminal charge at this point, but that the case remains under investigation. For now, those who live in RVs on Clinton Street are anxious about the future now that Housman is no longer here.
I am a little bit, yeah, you know, because he stood up for us, and now there's nobody here to stand up for us, you know. So what's going to happen to us now, you know? That's what I'm concerned about, you know.
Well, some of the homeless neighbors say they're planning a protest in downtown Portland to push for justice for Kenny Housman. If you have a story for us, you can reach out to our tip line or email us at cityincrisis@katu.com.